Good evening and welcome to the Arundel Camera Club meeting for Thursday, September 12th. My name is John Milliker and I'm the club president for the 2024-2025 season. The Arundel Camera Club exists to promote the art, science, and education in all aspects and fields of photography. For more information about us, please visit arundelcameraclub.org. We're happy to be meeting in person again. We are located at the Severna Park Baptist Church at 506 Benfield Road, Severna Park, Maryland. If you're local to the Anne Arundel County area, we highly encourage you to join us. Before we move on to tonight's announcements and contest, do we have any announcements from our officers? Christine will bring the microphone over to you. No announcements at all. Even you, Ron?
Just MPA contest coming up on the 15th. So check the MPA website, look for the 4 categories, and you can start submitting on the 15th. Members get 2 free. I'll send you the code so you can submit, and you get 2 free, and you can do 2 more after that for, and it's not a huge contribution.
Perfect. Thank you, Ron. Ron neglected to let you know to check your spam folder because he likes to end up there sometimes. This week, it's been very busy with the Anne Arundel County Fair. I don't know if you've been following the photos and the information on the Facebook page. Christine and I were on a whirlwind, traveling session. We ended up at the fair on Sunday to take in images. And who did we have on Sunday with us? It was Bob and Susan, Ken as well. And then on Monday, we were there. Who do we have on Monday?
Mike.
And
Monique.
And Monique as well. That really helped out. My brain is completely melted, so I apologize. We took in 314 fantastic photos from the residents of Anne Arundel County. Now that we kind of have an understanding how it works and kind of the green light to make things a little bit more streamlined, because so many people, we had one person bringing in the youth, one person bringing in the teens, one person bringing in the adults. We're going to streamline that next year to make it easier, but I totally expect everybody from the club to please submit some photos. It's a limit of 3 photos, 1 per category. And but you got some good competition there. Ron and one of our past judges, Nancy McKenzie, came out and judged on Tuesday. That started at 10 a.m. and we got out around 4 or 5, something like that. But they knocked out of the park, and we're really proud of the winners, the champions, and the best of show that they picked from the residents. Yesterday we were there. Oh my goodness, how many people were there yesterday? Bob and Susan again. Did we have anybody else?
No, it was just the 4 of us.
I completely apologize. I can't remember what I ate today, and that's my favorite time of the day. The Anne Arundel County Fair runs until Sunday. Check the schedule at some point to find out. We have a fantastic field trip coming up. We'll have Ed come up in a little bit to talk about the field trip to the fair. Please stop by the photography exhibit and see all the hard work that the officers and volunteers of the club have helped out. We still have several days and several new volunteers that are going to come up and really help make this thing something special and something that really your local camera club should be running. Anybody online, we passed out a lot of business cards and talked to a lot of people at the Anne Arundel County Fair. I don't think we have anybody here from the fair. No. So if you're watching us online, come out and join us. This is a fantastic club here. Am I missing anything, Christine?
I don't think so. Did you still need help on Sunday?
I do need help on Sunday. We have a member that is a virtual member that's going to be out there by herself. So I really could use somebody to help out, answer questions about the club. I'm going to send her kind of the information and the sheets, but really could use somebody to help on Sunday. If you could, just let me know after the meeting. I'd appreciate it. I also have 6 complimentary tickets to the fair if anybody is going to the field trip. So first come, first serve after the meeting. Just come over and grab a ticket from me there. Is that it, Christine? Am I moving it to you?
If you're working at the fair, like, we're working Saturday, do you have to pay to get in? to work?
No, as long as you are a volunteer and you've got that volunteer badge, that's exactly what's going to get you right in.
The badges are at the back Crownsville Road entrance.
Come in and park, and then as you walk up to to Big Paul Bunyan with the welcome sign, there's going to be turnstiles there. And I'm not sure exactly where, but
We couldn't figure it out yesterday. We walked up past Paul Bunyan and through a gate, and somebody came and closed the gate behind us and never asked.
okay.
We never badged.
All the volunteers have my personal cell phone number, so give me a call if you have a problem.
Is that when you go down the road and turn right?
Yes.
The Crownsville Road is the one that leads towards like the Maryland Renaissance Fair. And then it's if you're coming from
I'm coming from 97.
97, you'll turn right onto Crownsville Road. There at the hospital, the old mental hospital. And then it'll be a left entrance
You
and
go in the entrance and you go down the road.
Go
and you
straight.
And you can take a left.
go straight. The parking is straight to the left.
Well, it's right. If you go straight, and then there's a dog leg to the right, that's back where the animals are.
And the vendors.
I think the vendors have to park in the parking lot A as well, but all the volunteers have a parking sheet and a kind of a map. But yeah, that's a good thing about volunteering. So we hope we get some people interested for next year, because I like to have at least 3 people. That way somebody can just go and get some food or go check something out, maybe get on a throw-up ride or something, and then come back. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to turn it over to Christine, our programs director, for our upcoming schedule, and then we'll turn it over to Ed talk a little bit more about his visions of where to meet at the field trip, and then we'll go over to Greg.
Our schedule for the coming up on Saturday, September 14th is our field trip to the county fair. On September 19th next week we're having a print night. If anyone is interested in bringing their printer to help other club members print out some of their photos, please let me know. No one has messaged me. But this is a way for us to help with the light and shadow contest that's next month. The idea of this is to show first how you bring out your light and shadows, to show people on your laptops how you do that, and then to help people print, which is that's going to be the hardest part of that contest, is getting what you want to print. So knowing about the different aspects of printing is why that's the program. But if you plan on if you want to have someone print, bring your photos on a card or a USB stick. But I would ask you to also bring a couple dollars to help the people who are volunteering their printers, a couple dollars to help them pay for their paper and ink. So that's how we're doing that.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're printing 11 by 14, don't you want to format 11 by 14 to make the printing, so anybody who's printing a particular size, it should be formatted that way?
Yes, that will help a lot. If it's totally formatted and already edited, it's not for us to edit your photo for you. It's to have us help you with the printer profiles, which is what helps with the printing.
Christine, my thought on that is, if you do not know how to size, and ideally you would just bring the raw file or the largest file you have that you've edited. That way, if you want an 11 by 14 or an 8 by 10 or a 5 by 7, we could do it there, especially if you don't know how to properly resize your photos.
September 26th is our first print contest with the theme of open for both color and monochrome prints. On October 3rd, we're going to have a photo walk in downtown Frederick. I would ask to have someone please volunteer. I got put on the schedule at work that Thursday, even though I've tried to trade and I can't get anyone to trade with me. So I will need someone to lead that photo walk for me. If you are interested in helping me out, I would greatly appreciate you contacting me. Send me an email or talk to me here at the meeting. And then we can work on where people are going to meet for that photo walk. And usually we do meet a little bit earlier for photo walks just to give some more before it gets dark out. On October 5th is our field trip to Skyline Drive National Park. On October 10th is our next digital contest with the theme of light and shadow. And then on October 17th, we have a program by Rick Hulbert from Canada on the joy of symmetry in photography. And that is what I have for our upcoming schedule. And I will give the mic to Ed, who will tell us about our field trip this week.
Well, you know, our field trip is going to be very special this month. And we like to meet from 9 to 11 on the 14th at where John is. That's going to be in the photographic exhibit.
Yes, there's when you get there, there's a big giant Paul Bunyan out there, and right behind Paul Bunyan is a ramp that goes up, and the first metal building is the exhibition hall. You're going to see so much great stuff, from canned goods to sculptures to wood. A lot of great opportunities for photography, and then of course visit us and the other volunteers at the photography exhibit.
Yeah, so it's really neat, and it's from 11 to 15th of September. So if you can't miss that, if you can't make that particular time, there's other times you could come. So it's really going to be special, and I encourage everybody to come. Thank you.
I would also recommend that since the Maryland Renaissance Festival now limits parking and tickets, the fair has a big resurgence coming up. So I would recommend getting there a little extra early for parking. That's all I would recommend.
Okay, I'll turn this over to Ron.
Okay. Okay, first of all, apologies to everybody for not irritating you with all of my communications before the meetings. It's been since April since we had a contest meeting, and I just totally forgot it. So my apologies. Next time, everybody will be more than thoroughly communicated with on this. So on to the next thing, I guess. So, John, we're streaming on Facebook today. Is that correct?
We are.
Okay, great. So I think that most of you in the room probably recognize, although his face isn't here, if it were, you would recognize our current judge. There he is. Greg, I have to tell you a couple secrets on Greg. Greg is a Severna Park High School graduate. I've known him since he was like a ninth grader. And so for a long time, I had no idea whenever he was younger that he had all this artistic ability with photography. And then I started attending meetings, and it just blew me out of the water what he was doing with photography, because of all things, he's an aerospace engineer. So, you know, this is one of these guys that's not supposed to be able to see art, and somehow that's his brain is working in that way. I think what happens, he probably goes to work every day out in Colorado, where he, as you can see from his background there, that's right out his window at his house, right, Greg? No. So
down the road, not too far.
Okay, not too far. He has a world-class collection of photography books, and every time I've heard him judge or talk in a presentation or meeting or something, he'll drop the name of a book that he just got and he really likes, and unfortunately my shelves are overburdened because I copy off of whatever he says, and he's really a good artist in this. So he looks at photography as an artist would. It's after doing the engineering stuff all day long, he likes to go to a lot of the parks, U.S. and local parks about, and one of the things that kind of strikes me where he enjoys the challenge of finding interesting, this is off his website, so I'm cheating a little bit, finding interesting shapes and juxtapositions in nature and making the most of situations I discover. when you look at his pictures, you think the word juxtapositions, the shapes and so on, and you'll get it. And I'm going to quote him also from his site. He finds that little scenes often overlooked by others are the ones that fuel my photographic creativity. I'm always looking beyond the obvious and photographing the things that others might not even notice, like an acorn sprouting, the pattern made by rust and faded paint on an old automobile, or textures, then the windblown sand, and so on. Sometimes the most amazing images are right there under your feet. Consequently, and Greg, what's the name of your website?
Yeah, imagesunderfoot.com.
Okay, so if you do have a chance, quite seriously, go there and look. He has a couple of about 3 or 4 portfolios there that really just are really inspirational. And till the next time, it might help some of us kind of think through this. Yeah, and I'm sorry for the long introduction because I know we have a long evening with photos, but I just really enjoyed reading his website, and he pulled out 3 quotes from some of his many books. Elliot Erwitt said, "To me, photography is an art of observation. It is about finding something interesting in an ordinary place. I found that it has to do with the things you see and everything you do. It has little to do with the things you see and everything to do with the way you see them." Another quote from Laszlo Moholy-Nagy: "The enemy of photography is the convention, the fixed rules of how to do. The salvation of photography comes from the experiment." I really hate it whenever a judge says rule of thirds, leading lines, and all that stuff. They're good suggestions, but they're not the only rule there is. And lastly, Andre Curset's "Seeing is not enough. You have to feel what you photograph." Now, Greg, I didn't leave you much space there, but do you mind filling in the blanks so we can understand what we're going to be hearing and seeing this evening?
Yeah, so thanks for the great introduction. Thanks for grabbing a few of those quotes from photographers. And yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I do approach it as an art form. My dad was an art teacher, and prior to that, he was actually an artist for a number of years. Went into teaching because it was more profitable than being an artist at the time. But my mom was a mathematician, so I definitely inherited the whole brain. So yeah, tonight, my goal is to educate. So I tend to talk a lot. So I'll try to do my best to keep track of the time. But if you feel me lagging, feel free to say, "Greg, great convo, but speed it up a bit." I won't. It will not be the first time. So yeah, my goal is to try to give you a good critique and not just say I like it, I don't like it, or I want you to walk away with, why is this image impactful, or why is this image not impactful, and how could I make it better, or what could I look out for? I'll try to point out a few subtleties in some images that maybe you might not have picked up on, even the photographer sometimes. That I thought really made the image strong. So you got a lot of variety of stuff here with an open category, so it's definitely a challenge to compare all those different subject matter. So for me, the number one thing for me is impact of the photo. I know a lot of judges will say that the light is the most important thing because that's what the word photography means is light. I 100% disagree with that. I've seen many photos, and you'll see some here tonight that maybe aren't technically perfect or maybe don't have the best possible lighting on them, but the subject is interesting, or the composition is interesting, or they're really big impact to me. And so to me, that weighs heavier. I'd rather look at a slightly blurry photo that's really interesting and draws my curiosity than I would a technically perfect photo of a thumbnail. So with that, let's get on with it. And like I said, help keep me on time. And let's go.
Start off with novices, and
Yes.
there are 27 images. And you want to correct me, Bob, who did all the work organizing this, thank you, says we have 3 honorable mentions in addition to 27 other, and a total of 27 images.
That's right.
And that's first through fourth place in pre-owned. Okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, great. And did you want to run through those first, or let me just jump right in with the commentary?
Right, John will do that, and he'll read the titles of them as well, and I'll try to keep my mouth shut as much as possible here.
Number 1, taking a break. Number 2, honeybee in flight. Number 3, Donegal sea stack. Number 4, lake reflections. Number 5, before the storm.
Nope, one more.
Number 6, swipe right. Number 7, showing off. Number 8, love what I do. Number 9, side view. Number 10, sunset from cruise ship. $11, Costa Rica hummingbird. $12, Upper Mesa Falls, Idaho. $13, I need to get a little closer for that one.
Dawn with this shorty.
Dawn with Shorty. 14, The Dark Hedges. 15, Cooling Off at Assateague. 16, Birdwatcher. 17, Honeybee at Rest. 18, View of Harbor. 19, Study of Shadows. 20, Puddle Water Reflection. Number 21, Demian. Number 22, All Wrapped Up. Number 23, Cowgirl. Number 24, Great Place to Work. Number 25, Beauty Will Unfold. Number 26, Red Iguana. And number 27, Family Portrait. Greg, I'm going to go back to number 1 and turn it over to you.
All right. And so I think this one, it was a neat idea for a street scene. There's a lot of nice elements in this with the gentleman and the bike. For me, the composition, there's, I guess, two things that kind of off for me. One is the expression on the guy's face here in the middle. It's like he's like mid-speak or mid-something. He's got this kind of parsed lips or something like that. Just looks a little strange. And I think, he's sitting there for a while. I would have waited maybe for him to have some different expression or something like that. So to me, that's a little off because I'm not quite sure what's going on, what he's seeing there. Maybe he's chewing on a piece of gum or something. The other thing is you've gone like a wide frame, and a lot of times for street scenes, that's what you want. You want to show the environment, show kind of where this person is. I think in this case, I would have gone a bit tighter. I don't think on the right side, seeing the parking lot in the back, we needed to see that. And then, I think there's a decent amount of space on the left of the tree. I'm glad you left some space there. But I would have cropped off some off the right. And I would even consider cropping partway through that bike. I don't think you need to show the whole bike because it's really about the guy sitting there, and as long as I see like 2/3 of the bike, I know he's resting from his bike ride. So I think there's just a few things here that I wasn't kind of keen on, but I like this idea of finding people at rest and trying to catching them, lost in thought or something like that. I kind of like the guy in the background. I almost kind of feel like he might have been a more interesting subject to zoom in on, kind of looking at us. But anyway, so this one we'll take out.
Number 1 is out. Number 2.
This is nice. I really like this composition. Usually we see, and we'll see some other shots later. Usually people wait for the bee to land on the flowers and get that macro close-up shot. So good points for creativity, showing this wider field with the bird, coming in to the flower, and you caught the bee coming into the flower. And I like how you capture the bee when he's in that kind of dark shadowed spot, so really highlights him. And then even this curve formed by these green leaves kind of curves right into the image and kind of leads our eye right down to the flower here. I wish I could see more of the flower and it wasn't just the back of the flower with this leaf on it. I think that would have been more impressive. And obviously in nature, you can't always, you got to work with what you got. So I think this is a good composition on this one, and it's pretty sharp, which is challenge for the bee. I like how we still see a little movement in his wings, so we know he's not just photoshopped in there, or I guess what we'd say today, AI'd in there. So we'll leave this one in for now, but I think there's going to be some stronger images.
Number 2 is in. Number 3.
I like the idea of this one with this really high contrast, really dark jet blacks. It really allows the white of those waves and the long exposure really make those pop out. It does start to feel maybe a little too dark there on the right. We got this one rock mass right in the foreground on the right there. And I wish you have brought up a little bit more of the shadow detail there, because I'm seeing good shadow detail in the other rocks in the background, and they're definitely dark and high contrast, and that's fine. But I see just enough detail, just so it's not like a big black mass. And in this case, the one on the right, it seems like it's a bit of a mass. And I did have these brought into Lightroom, and I kind of blew them up. So the other thing is, I'm not so sure about this wave pattern in the front. And this is a type of scene where you take a lot of these photos, and then you see which ones turn out well. So I look to see if you have another frame where there's just some different wave action in the front. I'm not such keen on this kind of pointed thing, kind of fanning out. Looks like maybe a bird flying towards me. It does kind of mimic the upper stack pillar there we have in the back. But I just think more of a wash with a bit more white in that foreground might have played better for this composition, especially when your sky is really dark. You're really relying on that water to really give you the bright parts of the image. You might try even just crop in from the bottom a little bit of this, maybe take 10%, 15% off. That might balance it out a little bit better. So for me, there's a couple things are off here, but do a good job in the high contrast. But I think composition a little off. So we'll take this one out.
Number 3 is out. Get over to number 4.
So a nice scenic here. I like how we can see into the water and see the rocks there on the bottom of the lake here. And then that shadow there of the bright highlight of the water kind of points me into the image, and it's obviously replicating the sky up there. For me, the image seemed a little flat. I wish there was a little bit more pop in the background, so maybe just increase the contrast a little bit. And maybe, this looks like probably what it probably looked like to your eyes. And so I'd call this, a realistic capture. But I think in photography, sometimes we need to help nature out a little bit and pump it up a little bit. So I would pump up the contrast, pump up the saturation a little bit. I think your composition is good. Like I said, that leading line into it and seeing the mountains there in the background. But I think just a little bit more editing would just make this one a bit stronger. So we'll take this one out.
Number 4 is out. Number 5.
So here's another high contrast one. And so this one, I think, where we talked about in my introduction about not following the rules, and I'll quote one rule here that we'll rename it a guideline. But the rule is don't put your horizon dead center, right? So you look at this photo, you say, well, Greg, the horizon is not dead center. It's like almost rule of thirds. This should be following all the right rules. But look at the image. It's kind of what I call a half-half image. So the left half is the dead tree with some water and stuff in the background. And then the right half is this boulder and then the hillside. So you've kind of broken photography rule number 1 by horizon the center, but that can apply to just framing the image so I have half and half, kind of like a tennis court or ping pong table. And so the reason that rule guideline exists is that you want to show emphasis to one particular part of your image over another. And when you do this kind of split image where I can kind of cut this image in half, and if you kind of hold up your hand and cover the right half, that's actually a pretty interesting image just with the tree there. And if I put up my left hand and cover the left half, okay, the boulder by itself, maybe not so interesting image, but definitely the tree by itself makes an interesting image. So I'm kind of I find my eyes playing ping pong and going back and forth, a boulder, tree, boulder, tree, boulder, tree. And so I think a slightly different composition will allow my eye to kind of lead in from the right and then into this tree. So I think you need to leave a good bit more space there on the left. I like these little rocks that are in the surf there. And if you had left a little bit more room on the left, you'd have maybe a few more of those rocks probably in there, and that would balance out the photo, kind of balance off to the heaviness of this lower right where we have all the rocks and boulders. So I think the balance is off a little bit for this one. I do like the high contrast, kind of low key you got going on here. I think that works well for the subject matter, but I think your framing just need to be a little bit different. So we'll take this one out.
Okay, number 5 is out. I want to make sure if I took 3 out, I don't think I had window focus on that. That was right, Ron. 3 was out, right? Yes. I just wanted to make sure I got it. Number 6.
So yeah, this is a fun photo, and for this one, the title really adds to it because I think I see this, I'm like, someone playing in the surf, and okay, and so adding the title of the swipe was kind of humorous, adds definitely another level of what you were trying to get across. I try to make my titles and my photos not having to add to the photo so much or I should say explain the photo. So I think that one, maybe it's a little lost on me here without the title. But I do like your kind of tight in crop here. Like the blue water we're seeing in the background that really allows that splash of water to play out. But I think for this one, I would really have loved to see the gentleman's head turn sideways because he's just kind of a mass, kind of eclipsed by the wave and the splash. And you can tell who it is, but I think if his other hand maybe was up or his face had turned, it would just allow a little bit more of a personal connection to the person, to the human in the film, in the photo. So I think that would have made for a slightly stronger image. And this is another one where we're doing that half-half, where we have the lower half of the image is the crashing wave, and the upper half is the man with a nice background. So again, I would have said, hey, if my subject is the man in the surf, I don't need to show the water up in the foreground. I can come in and crop that water out and just crop right at that surf line. So I have the bottom third is the surf, and then we have the man, and then we have this nice, pleasing, out-of-focus background. So this is another one where a different crop might have just helped emphasize the man a little bit, but I also think you need to wait for a slightly different moment. But good job for using the action with the spray there. I know that can be challenging sometimes. So we'll take this one out.
Number 6 is out. Number 7.
This is nice, and you see these photos, and it's like, oh yeah, I've seen peacock photos before, but it's always such a pretty bird. And so this is a case where a lot of times we hear in competitions about a mature subject. I know back when I lived on the East Coast, everyone photographed the Capitol at night or went to the garden, the National Gardens. You start to see the same photos time and time again. You get bored with them. But peacocks, I think they're always interesting. They're always, to me, I'm not even a birder, and I think they're an impressive animal. So even though this animal I've seen tons of time and I've seen photos like this before, it's still just very pleasing to me. So I think that's something to think about when you're taking photos of things that you've seen a lot before or very common subjects. That doesn't mean it can't be interesting. And I think this one is interesting. It's not as sharp as I would like. Definitely the bird himself, I wish his face popped out a little bit more. But I know we're in novice category. But I do like your framing. I like how we have all the feathers filling up the top and here the right, and then we get to see his feet, and we get to see he's in some sort of path. He's probably a captive bird in some park or some zoo. So I like that little bit of dead space there. Usually people don't like so much negative space, but I think because this bird's plumage is so busy, having that little bit of bare space there in the lower left really grounds the bird and really grounds the image. So I think even though technically not perfect, composition really, really good, and the lighting is nice on the bird too, on him, right? Because in birds it's the males that have the pretty plumage. So we'll keep this one in for now.
Number 7 is in. Number 8.
This one, I think you really caught a good moment of this dancer. I've seen these kinds of dances before where it's very expressive with their legs. Kind of curious about your choice of this. I guess we'll call it high contrast because it's like high key, low key, high contrast image. I think that definitely makes that dress pop out. Definitely allows you to hide the background, which appears to be maybe some sort of shopping mall or something like that. So it definitely allows you to downplay that background, but at the expense that we lose a lot of the detail on her hands, especially the right hand that's outstretched out back, and then the feet. And I think for this, it's really that dress flowing is really impressive, but I think having the legs, especially a little bit more visible, would have really just balanced it all out and just show the dynamic of the dancer so much more. And we see some good highlights on the left leg there in the foreground. We lose it all in the one on the right there in the shadows. And you could probably bring that up a little bit, and it wouldn't look too out of place. And then bring up the shadows on the hand on the back there. I think it would just balance it out a little bit better, just because I think the hands in this case really are good offset to the dress. Because when I kind of look at it quickly, it just looks like a ghost, like a white sheet kind of floating. And it's not till I study it a little more intently, like, oh, okay, it's a woman in the midst of dancing. And so I think we've lost a little bit with the high contrast here. So might consider just reworking this one a little bit, but I do love your composition. I do like the tight crop on this, really kind of contains the energy in there, but just bring out some of the best details of the dancer and it'd be way more impactful. So we'll take this one out.
Number 8 is out. Number 9.
This one is kind of a similar story, even though it's a totally different subject matter, where you're going in close on this plant here, and the stamen, or the pistils, whatever you want to call them there, they're just way too shadowed, and I wish I had a little bit more detail there. And I know you're kind of going for maybe a little bit more of a high contrast here, and the shapes are kind of offset pretty decent amongst the flower petals in the back. It's just I'm going in macro. My eyes want to see some detail. My eyes want to see little intricacies here. So I think this one, it seems like it's in between. It's not a macro shot, not a macro detailed shot where I'm not seeing all these hyper detail, but it's not an abstract kind of airy fantasy type photo either, because it's not blurred enough. So it's kind of in between, like you're trying to do something artsy, but you didn't take the artsy far enough. So I'm expecting to see the detail of a close-up macro shot. So I think this one, you could kind of rework it a little bit, be better. Not so keen about the big gray area here in the lower right corner. I think you could crop in a way bit tighter on this and just show the center pistil there, the little stamen things. I think that's your photo. I don't think you need all this gray space on the lower right. And then you could take off a little bit off the right as well. Definitely leave some space up top though. But that lower right definitely has got to come out a bit. So we'll take this one out.
Number 9 is out. Number 10.
Really good sky here. I do like the idea of we kind of have this portal with this curved top here. We're looking out at the sky, and we got these nice, pretty colors in there, and then it's replicated in the light bulbs on the right and the left. So we get this little kind of pops of orange there to kind of frame it out really, really nicely. I'm not so keen on whatever this structure here is in the lower center, this ramp or over awning, I guess it is. I don't really know that that adds to the image because it kind of points me down and then leads me down to the bottom right corner of the image. I'm not really feeling it pulling me up towards the upper left because that upper left is heading towards blackness of the shadows above that left lamp on the left. So I feel in this case, it's leading me down towards the bright part in the lower right. I don't want to go down to the lower right. All the action's up there in the center in that arch. So this is a case where I think you could crop out the bottom and just have maybe a diagonal element there and not have it leading me down to an open space. Might be a little bit better. So a neat idea and nice execution, getting all the highlights rendered pretty good here. But I think the cropping maybe is a little off on this one, so we'll take it out.
10 is out. 11.
This one's nice. I like there's this one. The sharpness is not as much as I like, and I know hummingbirds like move super duper fast. You need good strobes and fast shutter speed. So I know it's a challenging bird to capture for sure. And I've seen lots of hummingbird photos before, but I love this one for the uniqueness. And what was particularly caught my attention on this one is the bird. We have the wings swept forward, kind of forming this point, and then its tail feathers are kind of spread out a little bit, forming some interesting little points or fingers. And then we have his beak and stuff going there. And that's really replicated really nice in the flower that he's approaching. So I thought that was interesting. And I don't know if the photographer saw it that way or they were just like, oh, hummingbird with flower, I'll take a photo. But I like that you've captured the bird in this position, that he replicates some of the shapes he's very mimicking, not intentionally, but just how you've captured him, really mimics some of the shapes in this flower. And I think your composition is really nice. We've kept it in tight, but left still a little bit of breathing room around everything. Probably could allow just a hint more breathing room at the top so that point of that one flower is not quite up against the top there. But otherwise, and maybe lacking a little sharpness, but I know this is a novice category. So really good selection of your image. And I like how you blackened out the background, however you achieve that. So just really interesting and kind of like we were talking about before, he's showing me something maybe I've seen before, but definitely in a different, interesting way. So really kudos to the photographer for this. And I will say there's probably someone in the audience going, but Greg, didn't you just say before that you can't divide an image in half? Because kind of half of this image is flower and half of it is the hummingbird. And I'd say that, yes, that is true. But it works for this particular image. So clearly all rules and guidelines can be broken and sometimes adhered to. So I like this one, so we'll leave it in.
Number 11 is in. Number 12.
Good job on this one with the longer shutter speed to get that nice kind of flossy look to the falls here. I like the idea of we're seeing this falls from the side, which allows us to see all this swirl action in the waves down there below. I think if you had gone around and shot the fall straight on, we wouldn't have been able maybe to appreciate some of that kind of curve and swirl action going on down there at the bottom. So I do like that. To me, this image seemed a little bit grainy, like maybe it was a higher ISO or maybe it was cropped in a bit. So we're losing some resolution a little bit there. But overall, it's an interesting framing to kind of photograph a falls from the side like this versus you'll almost always see them straight on. But I can see why you did that, to show the water down there at the bottom. So we'll leave this one in for now, but it may not rise to the top.
12 is in. 13.
And I am being a little facetious because I already have all my answers right here. But I'll save the surprise for the end. So nice shot of this owl coming at me. I do like the framing of him coming out of this tall grass. The background's nicely blurred out. There is one blade of grass, and I know you focused past it onto the bird, so it is out of focus, but it is cutting through his face, and I wish that wasn't the case. And it seems like you did the best job you could to de-emphasize that, but to me, I see it kind of cutting through the left side of his face, right to our vantage point. So you can kind of see, especially in the darkness of his fur. So that is a little distracting, only because this type of image, I'm immediately drawn to his face and those bright eyes and the beak and the white outline. And so then I'm really scrutinizing all the details around it, including some of those out of focus things that you've had to shoot through to get to the owl. And then you see another one poking through his wing there too. And I could have probably forgiven those if he was razor sharp. And this just not the case here. I think he's sharp enough just because he stands out from the grasses, but it's not sharp enough. And so I don't know if this is in nature or you're on one of those kind of workshops where they just bring the birds towards you and you're camped out at the optimal spot. But either way, you need a way higher shutter speed. I know when I've heard other birding photographers speak, they say they try to keep at least a thousandth of a second. So sometimes that means you have to crank up your ISO, which does introduce noise, but easier to clean up noise in your photos than it is to clean up non-sharpness, even with the wonderful AI tools we have today. So this one I think had a lot of potential, but I think it falls off a little bit for me. We'll leave it in for right now because it does have some good elements to it, but we'll see what happens. Next.
13 is in. 14.
Really nice on this one. Interesting location wherever this is. I like your kind of low-key processing on it. Really adds to the moodiness and spookiness of this. And then you have the title, The Dark Hedges. So I thought that was a good choice for that. And so it really does leave me kind of like, do I want to walk down this road that I'm looking at? I'm not sure what's around the corner at the end there. So like your composition, like the concept and the processing here. It could be a little sharper. I would even pump up the contrast a little bit more, make the blacks even a little blacker, so it just really punches at me. But overall, it's pretty good and definitely interesting subject matter. So leave this one in.
14 is in. 15.
Nice moment you captured here with this assembly of horses. I debate how much we need the horse on the right. I mean, he's getting splashed in the hindquarters there. To me, I like the grouping on the left with the three, the mom and the little foal, and then the other, probably dad there, getting splashed in the back. I think you could probably crop out the right half of this image, that horse. I don't know that you need that. I think the three, and usually odd numbers, again, photography rule number 75, I think it is and I'm making up these numbers. I joke, but one time I was at Camera Club and someone said, I Googled and there's no rule 57. Where did you get these rules from? I'm making up the numbers as I go. So don't be Googling as I'm talking. So I really like the left half of the image of this image better. I think that's the really strongest part. I don't think we need the horse on the right there. Sometimes wide is good. Sometimes showing more horses and more subjects is good. But I think you got plenty of action on the left side of the image that you don't need it. And then also the right side image, by including that horse, means we include a huge mass of white wash from that breaking wave. And as you probably heard many times before, the brightest parts of the image or the darkest parts of the image are going to grab your attention. So when I look at this image, my eye starts to drift towards the right side of the image, towards that bright, huge mass of white wave there. And like I said, that's not the most interesting part of the image. The left, where we have the group of horses, we got some more texture in the waves and stuff there on the far left, way more interesting. So this is a case I think you need to sacrifice Uncle Bob there on the right and focus on the family of three on the left. So I've cropped this one differently, so we'll take this one out.
15 is, let me get window focus over there. 15 is out. 16.
Neat idea here, kind of the watcher watching the watchers. I like the black and white. I thought that was a good choice for this. Really allows me to stay focused on what this person is doing with their binoculars, looking up at something. I debated on this one whether I needed to see what they're looking at, like some bird up in the upper top. So we can't really tell what she's looking at, even though you've left a lot of dead space at the top, a lot of that sky. So it's kind of like you're leaving that much real estate to the photo, almost 40% of the photo to open sky. Like I should get a payoff for taking up that much of the real estate. A payoff being a bird or something that the lady is looking at. So a little curious, the composition to not include the subject we're looking at if you're including that much sky. But do like this angles you created here on the bottom, and you're cropping there on the bottom with the pier there. And then the background's nicely softened on this overcast day. So I think this one has some good ideas, and I like the black and white processing on it. But I would have chosen maybe a different composition, either less sky, so it's just about the person looking out and I don't have to guess. I can just pretend what she's looking at. Or if you include that much sky, include the subject, because otherwise, why are you devoting that much of the real estate to the image? So we'll take this one out.
16 is out. 17.
Nice job on the detail on this one. Looks like, I don't know if this has been sharpened or how this was done, but you definitely have good detail. It's not razor sharp, but I used to do little bugs and I got frustrated because they just wouldn't sit still. So I know this is a really difficult kind of shot to take, even with a macro lens that will help you get that nice sharpness. Very interesting with your really tight crop here. We got a little bit of space around the head there at the bottom. I would have preferred a kind of equal amount of space at the top, so his little hind leg and wing wasn't cut off. But maybe there's some distractions over there that you're trying to get rid of. So kind of interesting too with this curvature created by his thorax, whatever it is, bending backwards there. So that's kind of nice, kind of adds like a little curve, and then we have the wing kind of creating a jutting there on the left to kind of mimic some of the flower petals we have on the right. So interesting composition on this one, and nice amount of sharpness on it. You can see little hairs on its back and its eye, nice and sharp. I might have given it just a little bit more breathing room, a little bit wider, but otherwise it's pretty good as it is. So we'll leave this one in.
17 is in. 18.
Beautiful light on this scene here. This is like Copenhagen or something like that. The problem with this kind of image is, and this has happened to me countless times, you're on vacation at these cool old cities, and it's an assault on the eyes. You see all these boats and the reflections, and you see the buildings, and your eye is able to make a lot of distinction between the multiple layers of this image. And unfortunately, the camera is not. Even the best cameras, it flattens everything together. And so that's the problem with this image, that I think if I was there in person, this was probably a really impressive scene. And my eyes would probably pick up all those layers. But with this image, it just all blends together. So it becomes kind of this muddy mess in the middle where I can't really distinguish the boat masts from the building edges and the other details going on, the shops along the water there. So it just gets really busy and chaotic. I like the mirror reflection of the buildings in the water, but it's just that middle being so busy. And this is something you can try to go in and edit the boats and bring out some details or bring out some highlights so they pop out a little bit more, or do that to the buildings in the background. It's a lot of work. And so this is the kind of scene that it's a great shot. You put it on the cover of your blurb book for your summer vacation that you show your family and friends. But from a competition photo, it's just that I lose the detail and I lose the layers. So it just doesn't work for me. So unfortunately, we'll take this one out.
18 is out. 19.
So we're just talking about the B, and I was saying about getting a little wider. So I'm going to go the opposite and say on this one, get a little tighter. So I can see what the photographer was thinking, that really cool shadow here of this metal chair against a textured rock there on their patio, probably. And you want to show the whole chair so you can see everything that you're capturing there. But I don't think you needed the whole chair in this point. I think we could have shown kind of like that bike and the street scene earlier on. I think this one you could have taken the top maybe 20% off this photo, maybe crop off all those pavers forming the curve. I don't think you need that. To me, that's a bright spot. My eyes go to those bright rocks of rounding the flower bed there. I don't, if this is all about the shadow and based on the title, that's what you want me to focus on. I don't need all that grass. I don't need to see the rest of the garden. I don't need to see the top of the chair. It's all kind of mixed in with the plant anyway, with the black and white really causes those two to blend together. So I'd almost crop all the way down to that left armrest of the chair, or even maybe even further. So we see a portion of the chair. So you say, oh, okay, it's the chair, but it's all about the shadow there. So again, we're kind of half the image is the real image of the chair in the background, and then half the image is the shadow. So which is more important? And if it's the shadow, give me more real estate devoted to the shadow, more percentage of the image to the shadow, and less percentage to this extra stuff that I don't care about, like these flowers in this garden in the background. So I do like your black and white treatment. I like this high contrast. It works really well for this subject and this shadow, but you got to crop off a good chunk of the top to keep my emphasis on the bottom. So we'll leave this one in for now, but if it goes out, it's because we need to recrop it.
19 is in. 20.
Yeah, this one had me kind of thrown for a loop at first with this reflection in the puddle. So neat scene to see this and see this reflection. But it's what am I looking at? Like I'm looking at two smokestacks. There's some clouds there and some type of bush or something like that. So to me, the elements just aren't all playing together. I'm a fan of industrial stuff. I take pictures of smokestacks and plants and factories too. So it's not that it's not colorful enough or something like that. But it's to me, I think you need to see a little bit more, maybe a little bit of the building that the smokestacks are coming out of. Just something more to balance it off. In this case, we're balancing the two smokestacks with a bush and some clouds. And to me, that's not the right marriage. They don't go together, right? One's this nature stuff, and then one's industrial stuff. And then, of course, we're also getting keystoning of the buildings kind of angling off with the perspective shift. So neat idea to see the reflection in the puddle, but I think you need to maybe change your angle so you got maybe a little bit different reflection, or just look for something else maybe more impressive to be reflected in the puddle. So we'll take this one out.
20 is out. 21.
Interesting idea here. I spent a bit of time kind of looking at this one. This guy's got quite the grimace. You'll probably tell me that this is Bob in your camera club, and this is taken at his home studio or something. But I don't know. I don't know him. So interesting for me. I think the confusing part was I liked his grimace, and he's like scowling at me or something like that. And of course, he's dressed up as some like Rough Rider cowboy or something like that. But I wasn't quite sure what the heck was going on in the upper right. We got this smoke coming in, and I'm like, where's the smoke coming from? Because it looks like a studio shot. So I'm like, I think I needed to see like a cigar in his fingers or something like that, or something showing why the smoke is important. If maybe the smoke was over the whole image, engulfing the whole character, and then just his scowl kind of coming out of a clearing in the whole smoke-filled room, that might be really interesting to me. But just the smoke in the upper right-hand corner that I don't really understand how it goes with this cowboy just seems confusing to me. And then we have light coming in from the right, really hot on his hand. And so, as I mentioned before, your eye goes to the brightest part of the image. So first off, my eye goes right to his face because it's right there in the middle. And then the hat frames it out nicely. But then my eye starts to drift to the upper right, to this hand, and then to this smoke. And I'm like, what's with the smoke? Is his house on fire and he doesn't know it? Or maybe he's mad that his house is on fire. That's why he's scowling. And he's not scowling at me. So it left me confused. And so it's okay to leave your audience guessing a little bit, but I think this one left me guessing a little bit too much. And then especially with the bright spot on his hand really needs to be toned down so that my focus stays on his face. So some neat ideas and concepts here, but I think you need to develop it just a little further. So we'll take this one out.
21 is out. 22.
I like the thought of this one with the spider, and he's at this middle of the web where we can't quite see all the webbing, so it really allows the spider at his lunch, it appears, that he's cocooned, to really pop out against that negative space. So good job with that framing. But for this one, kind of like some of the other ones we've seen, if you're going to give me a detailed shot like this where my only real subject is that spider and that cocooned lunch there, he's got to be way sharper. And this is something where it may seem sharp to you, but you really just got to zoom in on your LCD screen when you take this photo and make sure you've really nailed the sharpness. We're getting some strong light. I would try to tone that down with your highlights on the cocoon especially, and then even on the back of the spider. Tone that out. But I like what you've done, blurring out the background with your shallow depth of field. But I think this one just needs a little bit more editing, or maybe just when you took it, just make sure you're very steady or on a tripod. And I find nowadays I have caffeine addiction problems, so my hands are jittery. I cannot handhold. I just carry my tripod everywhere. It's really annoying and really frustrating, and I hate lugging that thing around, but I need it to get the sharpness. So this is a case where you had to get the sharpness. So get the tripod out, spend the extra minute setting it up so you really nail the focus and the sharpness. So we'll take this one out. But good composition, so I give you credit for that one.
22 is out. 23.
Really nice portrait here. Really excellent job with editing the face. I can tell it's had a good bit of editing because otherwise her eyes and brow would be way more shadowed than they are with that big brimmed cowboy hat. But it looks really naturally done. A lot of times when people edit these kinds of photos, they plasticize the woman and it look like Barbie doll. So I think this is a really good job of finding that right balance, that it's not natural because no way her complexion is that impeccable, but it doesn't look over the top either. It's that emphasizing something is already beautiful, just bringing out the best in it. So really good job with your editing there. I will give you one little nit on your edit. Looks like you maybe tried to blur out the background even further with some type of blur masking. But there on her left shoulder, so image right, there's a good blur spot there above her hairline. So just watch with your masking. Maybe go back in and clean up that masking a little bit so you're not blurring out the edge of her hair there. Because I'm attracted to her face, and now the corner of my eye, I see this little blurry thing off to the right. So that is a little distracting. But otherwise, really nice lighting on this lady and really nice editing. Really makes her pop out. Outfit's really good too. I think it all kind of just all comes together. So kudos to the model. She did most of the work, but the photographer did a portion too. So good job on this one.
When that one in or out?
Oh, in.
You got it. 23 is in. 24.
Neat idea here. I liked this is another one where the title kind of really helps clue me in as to what you were seeing here, which is this man, working on the docks there with all the canoes. This is one where I think you could have gone a little bit wider. Maybe those boats, especially on the bottom, are really kind of tight in there. I wish I had just a little bit more breathing room. But the man and stuff is nicely framed out against the water. We got some great color on the lake here. Decent contrast here on the left, and then kind of fades out, which is fine, kind of keeps my emphasis here in the foreground. So overall, it's a nice image. I guess I didn't get a wow factor of this, even though it's a beautiful location and those colorful canoes there really offset the nature. I don't know, something I felt was off on this one. I looked at this one a bunch trying to put my finger on it, and the only thing I think is I'm just expecting to see a little bit wider, maybe a little bit more breathing room. But otherwise, it's a nice image. We'll leave it in for right now. And I know I'm going to have whole bunch of cuts to do, but we'll do that next.
24 is in. 25. If I can get there. 25. There it is.
I like the composition of this one, kind of coming in tight on this one, and I guess interesting choice of lighting. We've kind of gone for some high shadows here, and this kind of low light. So it's kind of interesting. I think when you do that kind of high contrast, high shadow kind of look, usually color just doesn't often work, I guess. I think in this case, going to a monochrome image might have been a better choice for this one. Usually when you're focusing on strong lighting and strong shadows, monochrome just pops more. This one, it just makes the flower seem kind of sad, because when you go this kind of high contrast, we lose some of the saturation of the colors of the rose here. So it kind of feels lost. And then on top of it, we have this very bright stem and the little under leaves there. So I think all that needs to be way darkened down, so that the brightest part is just the flower up here at the top and the highlight there on the left side of that foremost petal. Because I kind of come to the flower, but then my eyes are pulled to this very, very bright green stem there at the bottom. And that can be really shadowed out. I know that there's a stem there. I don't need to see all the details in it because it's all about the rosebud there. So I think you need to, maybe your lighting was probably fine. I think you just need to edit it a little bit and darken some of the parts of the image, maybe brighten some of the parts. And I'd consider monochrome for this one. I don't know the color really does anything for me in this one. So we'll take this one out. So neat concept, but work it a little bit more.
25 is out. 26.
This one's really nice. This one, I like the composition of this one. I think right off the bat, that was the thing that really won me over on this one. His foot placement, and obviously he's doing that. But good job, seeing this iguana perched up on this rock. We can really appreciate his claws and his legs there. I like your cropping here, kind of coming in tight, but not too tight. So we give him some breathing room, but tight enough in that we get rid of the distractions. And this is a case where, it is a little bright on highlights on his face and his gowls there. But you're probably off on some vacation and you're not there at, sunrise photographing these iguanas. You're probably there at 10:30 because that's when most of the tourists want to be woken up. So you're kind of working with the conditions you have. But I think you've done a really good job with your exposure and getting something that still is very pleasing, even though the light is a little strong on his face. But it also makes his face pop out a bit, right? It allows some brightness to kind of a darker animal. I would have maybe toned down the bright spot in the upper left there on the left side of the image. Try to tone that down just a little bit, just so his face is the brightest thing. But overall, this one is very pleasing, even though it's not the most perfect optimal light. It has so many other good things going for it with the position of the animal, the cropping, and the framing. So good job all around this one. So leave it in.
26 is in. 27.
Neat idea here, capturing mom buffalo and then I guess probably dad there in the background. The problem with this image is that buffalo in the background just blends into the one in the foreground. And there's enough distinction. I know, yes, it's a separate animal back there. But I wish you waited one more moment for maybe the animal in the background to peek its head up or something like that so we could see a little bit more, so it's not just this big brown mass in the background. And then you got the calf actively drinking from mom there, but I can't really see his face. It's totally in shadow. He's totally turned in. So there's a lot of dense, dark parts of this image. And I wish I could appreciate more of the animals' faces, or just even a little hint of their faces. So I think it's a neat idea, but I think you need to wait for a different moment for some slightly different head positions. Mom looks like she's asleep there. Her eyes are all droopy. But I'm gravitating towards that calf because he's such a brighter color, but then I can't see his face. I can't see his muzzle or anything like that. So I think you need to wait one more moment for him to turn his head slightly. And I think it would have been a stronger scene there of this family. So we'll take this one out.
Okay, 27 is out. I do believe that is everything. Let me bring the catalog back.
Yep, and then I have my list right here, so.
I'm going to see if I can look at the screen all the way over there and figure out what in the world. I'm going to have to bring this over here and cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
And see if I can't find it. Attribute. Come on, where are we at? My attribute bar is going. There we go. Okay, I think I see, how many we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11 images left.
All right. So we'll take out a couple here, the thin the herd. Let's just make sure my winner's here. All right, we're going to take off whatever number 10 is there. It's the boats and the canoes. All right, and then we're going to take out that one out.
That's number 24.
That's the first one was number 24, the boats and the canoes.
Okay.
I gotta make sure Ron knows. And what's the next one, Greg?
The next one to take out is going to be the waterfall. The fourth one there, yep.
That's number 12. Ron?
Yes.
And then we'll take out the chair with the shadow on the right there.
That is number 19.
And then that should give me my 7. Oh, wait, I got a bonus one. Uh-oh. Which one fell out? All right, let me just start assigning some things. I forget which one's going to fall out. Oh, I know the bee the bee on the left with the greenery. We're going to take that one out.
That is number 2. That one's out.
All right, so now our honorable mentions. The first honorable mention will be Dawn with Shorty. That's the owl over the grasses.
Okay.
Our second honorable mention is going to be Showing Off, the peacock.
That is number 7. Did I give you the other number we're on? The first honorable mention was 13. Second honorable mention was number 7.
And the last honorable mention is going to be the dark hedges, the trees, the spooky trees.
That is number 14. Honorable mention.
All right, fourth place is going to be the bee.
That is number 17.
Third place will be the hummingbird.
That is number 11.
Second place is going to be the iguana.
That is number 26.
So that makes cowgirl your first place.
And first place is number 23. Ron, do you have the microphone?
I do.
Okay. Let's start with honorable mention number 13.
Okay. 2, 3. Number 13.
Yes.
That's Dawn with Shorty, and the photographer is Diana Leniken. Congratulations.
Number 7.
Okay. Photo number 7 is Showing Off, and the photographer is Melissa Chin.
Next is 14.
Okay, this is the Dark Hedges, and the photographer is Timothy Hughes Chin. Yeah, I apologize. Little tiny print.
Number 17.
Okay, fourth place, Honeybee, and that's Charles Goldblum. Congratulations. And third place, Costa Rica Hummingbird, Dinah Lenniken. Congratulations. Second place is Red Iguana, and that is Catherine Rush. And our first place winner this evening is Cowgirl, and congratulations to Ken Temple. Okay.
Let me go ahead and get our unlimiteds up here. I had a couple people ask about the fair hours. Today was officially 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., and we want to give a special thanks to Greg Hockel for sacrificing his wonderful camera club for one night to go sit out there and let people know just how awesome we are and to bring people out to us. So thank you so much, Greg Hockel, for that. Tomorrow, there's a special children's pricing. Kids under 9 are free. That is 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the official fair, if you want to go and not bring kids with you, it's 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. We will have several of our camera members out there. Saturday, the 14th, is 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. We'll have several camera members out there and hopefully more attending our fantastic field trip. And then Sunday is actually 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I also want to make sure that anybody who goes to the fair and takes photos, please send them to Mike for the newsletter. And if we are ready, I can start reading out the next ones.
Do we want the winners to talk about their pictures?
Do we have? I know we have a couple. Let's do that at the end because I already have these up here. If we have, I know we have one at least, two.
Limited, we have 51, John, is that correct?
Let me see how many we have. Is that 51? Yes, 51 images.
Okay, that means 4 places and 5 honorable mentions. So a total of 9 images we'll be looking for. And
Perfect.
these are the unlimiteds, Greg.
Okay, got it.
Okay, number 1, Fall S First Grass Frond. That's probably Fall's First Grass Frond. Number 2, Street Scene with Red Car. Number 3, Long-Legged Fly. Number 4, Fresh Market. Number 5, Expression. Number 6, Wind Amp Dust Storm. That may be an ampersand there. I'm not sure if that's how it kind of translated over. 7 is Fritillary Butterfly. 8, Carney. 9, The Look. 10, Refuge Elena. Number 11, Snowy. Number 12, Peace and Perspective. Number 13, Kim Seen Sunset. Sure, I butchered that. Number 14, Hazy Morning. Number 15, Patuxent Hummingbird. Number 16, Great Falls. Number 17, Here is Looking at You. Number 18, OBX Surfer. Number 19, Color Explosion. Number 20, Morning Glory. 21, Nubra Valley street scene. 22, July 4, Chrysler building rainstorm. I think that's probably supposed to say Chrysler. 23, Early Heights Carnival. 24, Mary's, that's probably Maryland, but it's kind of messed up. Maryland Sunflower. 25, Chilean Castle. 26, Triples. 27, Night Delight. 28, Old Town. 29, Miss Jamila. 30, Uprooted. 31, Red Milkweed Beetle. 32, Nice Try. 33, Wheelbug. 34, Handstand. 35, Follow Me. 36, Salsify. 37, Cascading Waterfall. 38, The Great Elephant Migration. 39, I Left You My Keys. 40, Posing on Rocks. 41, Port Clyde Lighthouse Window. Number 42, Too Cute. Number 43, Alien Doors. Number 44, Rain Delay. Number 45, Think Skink. Number 46, Eiffel Tower. Number 47, Door Handle. Number 48, Brant Beach. Number 49, Snake Love. Number 50, Haystack Rock. And 51, Fisherman's Shack. That should be it. I'm going to go back to number 1 and turn it over to you, Greg.
All right. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit here. I have my list here, so I'm not going to, I'm going to cut out some of the suspense and cut out some a little quicker. But hopefully try to still give you some good critique, but don't want to keep you too long. So this one, I like this idea. I like the tall crop that you've chosen here, really emphasizes the height of these grasses in here. Really nice light on this little thistle here in the front. The thing that was distracting for me on this one is there's in the background in the upper right, there's like a little zigzag. And that's probably exactly how it was. And with the out of focus, it just makes it look like this worm going through the image. So to me, and I don't know why, but to me, that's just very distracting. Maybe it's because all the other lines are kind of going up. Of course, we have this one in the lower right kind of going at an angle, but regardless, they're straight lines. So my eye quickly gravitates to that zigzag because, whoa, that's different. What's going on over there? And so I don't want my focus to go out of frame to this little zigzag out of focus thing in the background. So I think that's something you could probably clone out relatively easily, especially in unlimited category. Expect photographers to have some basic editing skills. So I try to clone that out so we don't have any shapes that aren't in the rest of the photo. because that definitely pulls my eye away from that. But I definitely like your tight crop like this. That works really well. But just that one edit would make that one a keeper. But with it as it is, I may take it out.
Okay, number 1 is out. Number 2.
Um, First disclaimer, I think I've seen this photo before, so I don't know if the author showed it to me on a previous time I was at your club, which was over a year ago, I think, or maybe someone else took the similar photo. So I'm going to say probably the same thing I said back then. Really cool car. So that's the subject. Jumps out at me, the bright red, and it's the brightest thing in the image. But look at what, and we talked a little bit about this today already, about what kind of real estate are you giving in your image. So the bottom half, the bottom like 50% of the image is sidewalk here and these 4 gentlemen in the front. And the 2, particularly here in the foreground, the guy with the fanny pack and the guy with the walkie-talkie, really jump out at me right away because they got white t-shirts on. So my eye gravitates to that. My first goes to the red car because red is a trigger, right? It grabs our attention. But then I immediately go to the framing of these guys in white. And they're all looking in different directions. They don't seem to have any connection with the car. So they're probably the locals, right? They've probably seen this car before, like whatever car. The tourists, they are all in the background with their iPhones up, taking pictures of this unusual little toy car. So to me, you've left 50% of the image to a bunch of guys looking in all different directions. These guys on the left in the blue, one's guy's hands up, don't know what he's stopping traffic or something. The other guy's got this kind of weird expression on. So it's like you gave a lot of real estate to things that I don't find that interesting. To me, the interest is the car. The interest is the tourists in the background with all their phones up trying to take pictures of this car. So I think this is a case where you needed to quickly take a few steps forward, get between these 2 guys in the white t-shirts so you could get a little closer shot. I don't think it's something you can crop in on to save it just because those guys are just too in the way. So you got to think about all the elements and how they all play together and how the marriage of them, of do they relate to the scene? And I just don't see these 4 guys in the foreground relating at all to the car or to all the tourists in the background. So it's disjointed in that respect. So I'll take this one out.
Number 2 is out. Number 3.
This one's really nice. Probably one of the sharpest images of the entire night, I'd say. So really good job with your capture and great job with your editing to really just bring out the detail there. The lighting on this long-legged guy is phenomenal. So I don't know how much of that is natural, how much of that was edited in post. Please don't tell me at the end that this is an AI-generated image because I'll just cry because it's a really, really nice capture. I think for this one, the bug is phenomenal. I'm going goo-goo over how the bug and how sharp he is and the nice lighting. But for me, what really makes this image is actually the background. That leaf, we got some great texture. We can see the detail on it in the foreground, and then it quickly fades out of focus. But it's got this nice swath of green kind of coming through the image, complements the fly nicely. It's just a wonderful arrangement. And then we have the out of focus background, which is a darker green, so it doesn't compete with any of the other elements. So just everything about this image just really, really comes together. So you won't be surprised when this one floats towards the top of the pack. So really good job on this one. Superior lighting and sharpness. So great job. Keep it in. Move on.
3 is in. Number 4.
This one I also really, really like. On first blush, it's maybe not the most razor sharp image. It does seem very busy and chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But that's what it is like in these kind of third world markets. Just there's stuff piled everywhere. And for me, there's a lot of story here. Like this guy, he's just finished shucking his, that's what you call it, pulling the husks off his coconuts, got the big pile of there. And he's just sitting back while this, nice lady in yellow comes in. So we see a nice, interesting dynamic between the older gentleman here, perhaps gawking at this woman coming across his path. But what I also like about this image is how the colors play off so nicely in here. We have the woman in yellow, really grabs your attention, that bright yellow dress, brightest part of the image. But then we see that yellow picked up in the bananas around the guy, even in the husks of the coconuts, a little bit of a tannish yellow. And then even right behind the lady, there's a little bit of yellow on this trash bag or whatever in the background. So I love that yellow theme is kind of replicated throughout the image. And you can say the same thing about the green of the guy's pants, replicated in the green of these totes, and then the green of the tarps in the background, and then even the green of the natural background of all the fern and stuff like that. So I don't know if the photographer is thinking all this deeply into this composition when you compose it this way, but I think it all really works together. Even though it's a very busy image, there's enough pops of color that it really allows my eyes to bounce around the image and appreciate just all the background. And it's not just the people, but it's also the environment. And even this haphazardly purplish gray thing hanging up on the right just balances off that side of the image and that little bit of background. So really well composed on this one. Really great image. I could just sit there and kind of stare at this one for a while. Kind of, is that guy going to say something to her when he passes? Is he going to whistle at her? What's going to go on? So really, really good on this one. We'll keep this one in.
4 is in. Number 5. Try that again. Number 5.
This one, shot of waves. Okay, they look all right. It's not as razor sharp as I would like for this kind of image. I think you're probably there a little late in the morning. We're getting a little bit too strong of a light, especially that surf there in the foreground. It's just all muddled together due to the high light coming on it. So it really distracts from the crashing waves, and these almost look like aliens with these kind of foam coming behind them. But I think this one, you really had to decide, what is your image here? We've all been to the beach. Well, okay. Many people have been to the beach. We've all seen this kind of surf action. So I don't need the wide shot to tell me what this is. I think you could have come in a lot tighter. I don't think you need really any of the sky, if some of it, but most of it you probably could crop out because there's not really much going on. There's all overcast and just cloud mass. Definitely didn't need this bit of wash here in the foreground. To me, it's all about the waves. And I would have cropped in just from that middle third strip of this image to really just show off these crashing waves and interesting shapes they're forming. There's a photographer I follow out of England, Rachel Talbot. And if anyone's interested, I can get you the exact spelling of her name at the end. She does close-ups of crashing waves, some in color, mostly in color, some in black and white, and phenomenal work. And it just shows that you can isolate everything else, get rid of everything else, and just showing the cresting wave creates some phenomenal images. And she does workshops. It's on my bucket list, I guess, to get out to the England and do a workshop with her. So that's where I think your action is. So I think the rest of the stuff is extraneous. So if it's not adding to the image, it's taking away. So crop it out and then see if you can recover some of your highlights to get a little bit more definition in those crashing waves. And I think that's where it's going to be the better picture for you. So we'll take this one out.
That is number 5. That is out. Number 6.
This one kind of threw me for a loop because I wasn't quite sure what I'm looking at here. Good job of hiding the sun behind the palm trees so it doesn't kind of de-emphasize it a little bit. But then I read the title and I'm like, okay, it's some sort of dust storm, but I guess I'm not getting the feeling of dust storm. Yeah, it's kind of hazy in the background, but that could just be, West Coast, June gloom where they got a lot of haze coming off the ocean. So I guess I didn't know what to make of this one. So then I start looking at just the overall composition, and we got this wide shot. So we're seeing a bunch of the building in shadow, but I'm not really quite sure how that marries with the 3 trees, 2 trees and a cacti. So just there's a lot of different elements here that I didn't really feel went together. So I wasn't quite sure what you're trying to show me. We got some strong shadow on the one tree, but then I'm not really seeing interesting shadows of the other elements. So just this one left me confused. So we're going to take this one out.
Number 6 is out. Number 7.
Nice sharpness on this little moth here. I think that's not a butterfly, probably a moth, but whatever. This insect here, interesting idea of his wings mimicking the flowers, so it's the orange on orange. But in some ways, it is sort of distracting. Sometimes you'd like to have a contrast of two different colors, so that the butterfly or moth will pop out a little bit more. So this, I feel like there's a little bit of competition going on there. I probably would have cropped this as a pano, take off a whole lot of the top, maybe a little bit off the left edge. So it's just a long strip, really emphasize his outstretched wings there. And I think that might just bring in a little bit more focus to him. We're going to take this one out.
Number 7 is out. Number 8.
Neat idea. I think I like the composition overall. This gentleman surrounded by all these cheap stuffed animals at the fair, and then of course the name, the Carney. And he's just taking a smoking break. For this one, I need more sharpness. I need more detail. This one just seems very pixelated, like you've cropped in, or this is an iPhone image or something like that. It's lacking a lot of detail. And then it looks like maybe you tried to remove the noise or sharpen it, and then his arm looks kind of plastic with that. So we're just, the technical part of this is really off. I like the overall composition of him kind of framed out by these animals, and then the blue boxes here. I'm guessing those hold the balls or whatever you're throwing at whatever Carney game this is. I think it would have been better if there was something in these blue boxes so I knew what kind of Carney game this was. Are you throwing softballs at milk bottles, or is it a dart gun or something like that? Because right now I got blue boxes that are empty, and so that's kind of left me wondering, like, what game is this? How do I win these prizes? So I think there's just a bunch of things off on this one. We'll take this one out.
Number 8 is out. Number 9.
This one scares me, right? Like if this is your Bob or your grandma, like the look, just like the title says. So we've probably all been subjected to the look more than once in our life. So she's got this look like, why are you taking my picture? Leave me alone. So kind of humorous from that, and definitely some PTSD coming in when I see grandma with the look. I think on this one, I would have cropped in a little bit tighter. That little sliver on the right of whatever's behind this white pillar, I don't need to see that. I don't need to see even her bust line and whatever jewelry she's wearing. I would crop in like right above her breasts and crop off a little bit off the right, maybe even a little off the left to balance it out. So it's really just boom, that big face in your face, and then maybe brighten it up a little bit so she just pops out of the page a little bit more. I think would really just take this home. So I think you got a good capture. Just edit it and crop it a little bit more to really just make it jump out at your face so you feel like you should lower your head in shame because you've done something bad. But we'll take this one out.
Number 9 is out. Number 10.
I like the composition of this one, this low angle where we can really see how this little lodge is nestled right up there against the glacier. Global warming is just going to wipe that thing out. But so I like that angle, and then we have the mountains kind of shrouded in the mist. Really shows you just how high up this lodge is up in the mountains. I wish it was just a little bit more shadow detail. I think that if you brought up some shadow detail in the lodge, maybe in the grass, especially that dark green moss, just really make that building and that little bit pop out a little bit more, because overall it seems kind of flat to me. You could probably lob a little bit off the right, maybe to where there's this dark kind of crevice cutting through that one rock mass there on the left. I don't think you need to see that bit of white snow and all that rock mass. Just show a little bit of the rock, but mainly it's about the glacier there. So take a little there. But I think this one needs a little bit more editing just to make it pop out at me more. But I love your perspective, and I like that composition other than just a little trimming. So a little bit more work on this one too. So we'll take it out.
10 is out. Number 11.
This one's really nice. I like this. First off, kudos on the lighting on the egret. These snowy egrets are so difficult to photograph well because inevitably they're out moving when the sun is coming up, and then the sun gets on their white feathers, and it's very easy to blow out the detail on their feathers. So really excellent job controlling your exposure here. We're seeing just a little bit of light on his outstretched neck and a little backlight on some of his feathers between his legs. And that looks just perfect. But what's really interesting to me is two things for this one. One, it's this posture that he's struck. He's on this tree, it's bending over, and then he's got his head all stretched out, following that kind of line that we're seeing in the background of the shadow between the light and the dark. And I really love this white on white. Usually you see snowy egrets out on the Sahara or something on the back of a water buffalo, or they're in some greenish area in Chincoteague or something like that. So this is kind of different to see it against this white background. But you've captured plenty of detail that it pops out amongst the background, but still blends in pleasingly. And then I love how saturated and high contrast the greenery here is on the bottom. To give me that little bit of pop of color at the bottom to offset what is a kind of a more of a washed out photo, but washed out in a pleasing way. So this one's really nicely done, and on a technical, the technical is really spot on. So keep this one in.
11 is in. Number 12.
This one, I spent a bit of time kind of thinking about like what the photographer is going for here. This lady checking out these grave sites. Maybe it's her husband or distant relative or something like that. And we see that with the title as well, the remembrance. But for me, I think you've shown too much. Maybe your thought, oh, I'm trying to show a sense of place. I'm trying to show this graveyard has been overgrown by this Spanish moss and these trees. And I don't know. To me, it allows the lady and the tombstones to kind of get lost a little bit. Then I was like, well, maybe you're trying to replicate. We got the lady and replicated in the tall pillar behind her. And this is why I start to think too much into these photos. And maybe you're trying to show some marriage between the tall pillar and then the tall tree and the relationship between the pairings. I don't know. I was trying to figure out what you were going for with this wider perspective. And so I think you could have cropped in a good bit on this. I don't think we need that bit of sky in the upper right. You could have cropped out all of that and just had just the trees, or even just crop in just even tighter on the person, but then you might lose a little bit of the sense of place. So I think this one is just, I was kind of left puzzling on this composition, and that really threw me off. So I think some cropping is needed, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. I'll leave it up to a photographer. But I think as it is, it's too much. It's very busy in that background. And so I'm left 80% of the photo to very busy real estate that doesn't jump out enough at me. So we'll take this one out.
12 is out. Number 13.
This one's really beautiful. Good job controlling the exposure here. The sky in the left there is a tad blown out, but to kind of get the exposure on everything else is kind of a sacrifice I think you have to make for this particular image without doing some type of HDR. But really nice with this reflection in the clouds here. I debated about the stickly trees. It definitely kind of creates an interesting element compared to the lush trees in the background. So it is kind of interesting. We did kind of put horizon dead center, but usually works well for these types of mirror reflection images. So this one's pleasing to look at, but I think this one did not make the cut. It is a really nice image, but you'll see that the ones that I end up giving awards to just draw a little bit more interest for me. So really nice image, but I only have so many places. So we're going to take this one out, unfortunately.
13 is out. Number 14.
This one, neat idea, kind of like what we were just talking about with the snowy egret, where we have this kind of white on white on white. And that's kind of interesting. It leaves a lot of mystery to me. I can't quite see exactly what's going on in the background with those sea stacks or boulders or whatever they are. And I love this long exposure to create these bits of white splashing in there. It really allows my eye to kind of just wander through the image. And so that's really pleasing. The thing I miss about this image is I think it needs an anchor. It needs a little bit more of this grass at the bottom, just a little bit of dark, almost jet black, something to just anchor the bottom of the image. Because otherwise it's just all floating there for me. And so you left a little bit of these grasses, probably because you want to show some of these rocks. and you decide to crop it out, but I'd leave a little bit of it in just to form a dark framing there at the bottom. And then we have a little bit of darker rocks, so not quite as dark, and then the water, and then I fade into the fog of the distance. So I think we need that one more layer just so it kind of balances out. So we're going to take this one out. But I think if you have a little bit more space in your negative and you recrop it slightly, I think you got a real winner there.
14 is out. Number 15.
Great job freezing the action of this hummingbird here. We got some really nice wing position. I love how the hummingbird is framed out by the dark spots of the background. It's not merging with some of the bright spots. You kind of got this triangle going with a little bits of 3 red flowers showing there. That was kind of nice. I don't think you need a little bit of red popping out of the top, so I crop a little bit off the top and also get rid of this bright green spot there at the top. So I think if you lob off a little bit of the top there is good. If you try to lob off the right to get rid of this bright spot in the lower right, then you're going to lose your triangle of pink flowers. So maybe if you just tone that down a little bit, as well as a little bit of tannish white here in the lower left. So just some of those hot spots. It's okay to have them poking around in the background, but I think you got to tone just a few of them down. So I think this one needs just a little bit more editing, so we'll take this one out.
15 is out. Number 16.
Great Falls. So I forgot this one playing with times myself. So this one, I think you're just there a little bit too late in the morning. When you're doing waters, kind of like some of the other waterfalls we saw, that when you go for a longer exposure to blur the waterfalls just blur out very, very quickly. And in this one where it's already so cluttered with all the rock masses, I need that smooth, silky water and some definition in that smooth, silky water to balance out the jagged rocks. The way it is now, it's just clutter on top of clutter. And so I can't really appreciate one or the other. It's just so much contrast with the strong light here. So this is one where you just got to set the alarm a little earlier, wake up a little earlier, and get down there to Virginia so you can see this vantage point. I think this is the Virginia side looking northward. And so I think that would make this one better. Your framing is okay. I would maybe left a little bit more space at the bottom, so I have a little bit of a dead space just because the rocks are so busy. You left probably way too much sky because there's no clouds or anything up of interest there. So I'd take off half of your sky and then take that same distance and put that at the bottom where I have a nice little dead spot of water in the lower right. I think would balance out everything a little bit better. So we'll take this one out.
That was out. Number 16?
Out. Yes.
Number 16 is number 17.
Interesting photo with the hummingbird looking right at me, freezing the action. Wish it was a little sharper on his beak, but I know you're trying to get his face in focus and his eyes. So I can see what he is, and it's a good position where his head is kind of standing out for me. And really good job freezing the action on this one. But I think this one, if I had a little bit more of the shadow detail, maybe bring out your shadows just a little bit more so he just really pops out at me, I think it'd be more impressive. I think it looks like the bird's turned at a slight angle, which creates a distortion in perspective with his wings. So the wing on the left looks kind of stunted. It's just because it's more angled back and not kind of straight out to the side like the one on the right. So that does kind of throw me off a little bit that he's not balanced. So I think when you're doing this kind of photo where it's right on at me, I'm looking for more symmetry. Doesn't have to be exactly symmetrical, but I think you got to have a little bit more in this case. So we'll take this one out.
Number 17 is out. Number 18.
1 sec. Nice job of this one. I've seen plenty of surf photos before. I've never seen one where the guy is like totally horizontal. So good job kind of catching an interesting moment where he's very horizontal and kind of just rode up that wave. I love how his hair even mimics kind of the wave action spraying back. So really good job capturing it. I like this framing, this square crop. Kind of keeps him boxed in, but you've given him enough breathing room with the wave and stuff like that. That works out well. I think you could probably up your contrast and your saturation just a little bit, just to make them pop out even more, make it more vibrant of an image. But overall, this one's nice. So we'll leave it in.
18 is in. Number 19.
This one really had me guessing as to what's going on here. Is this a super duper long exposure, or you've just layered multiple photos on top of each other? So it's very interesting look. I haven't seen this kind of look before. It's like an abstract painting on top, and then it's people watching on the bottom. So kind of interesting here. I wish there wasn't this sparkly fireworks there on the lower right part of the frame there, because it's disjointed from everything else, which is just smoke and swirls and stuff like that. So we're starting to see kind of sharper definition, and then it doesn't match with the rest of the image. So a little off balance there. So this one, it's interesting for something different, but I'm not sure it captures my attention enough, just because it is kind of chaotic going on there. I kind of feel like scrap the people and the fence and just make this an abstract and just crop in on just this swash of color and motion in the center. To me, I think that would be a stronger image overall. This definitely kind of shows you what it is that you're photographing, but I think an abstract might be stronger use of this technique, or however you achieve this. So we'll take this one out.
19 is out. Number 20.
So the first thing that caught me is, of course, we had the look from the lady before. Now we got the look from this gentleman. I like how he's got the flag on his sweatshirt, mimicked in the flag on the wall. But this one, kind of like the red car we saw before, where not all the elements were playing nicely together. So we got this guy kind of give us a look. He's got a red hat. Red's picked up in his flag on his sweatshirt, flag on the wall. Okay, we're starting to see some things going together. But then we got, his wife there checking her cell phone, and then we got Harley Davidson hand just cropping in from the left there. So I'm just not. To me, it seems like there's a grab shot of, hey, flag. Oh, let me grab it. So I just don't see how everything comes together here to make this kind of uniform picture. I don't know. Maybe if he was smiling, or he was turned towards so we could see his flag, and the lady in the background looked a little cheerier, maybe it would have balanced better. But I think, to me, this seems like just a grab shot, and needs a little bit more thought. So we're going to take this one out.
20 is out. 21.
This one I so wanted to like, but there's a few things I think that kind of took away my enjoyment of it. I do love this camel on the right, and how he's laying down. He's got his muzzle right kind of towards us, so it really kind of leads us into the image with that kind of long neck and head. But then I got this guy here that kind of fades into the background, because he's got his gaiter up, blocking his face. He's got the dark jacket, and so he kind of blends in with this other seated camel. And at first I'm a little bewildered, because I think that the blue legs are the camel legs. I'm like, what in the heck? Camel wearing pants? But then I say, oh no, it's this guy. But he blends in. He's so dark, and then he's got a camel behind him, so he just kind of blends in. So then I get this mass of stuff going on here that is disjointed. And maybe if he had his mask down, he could see his face, he would pop out more, and then it would make more sense. Okay, he's resting against the camel, or resting on the camel's leg. But I love this perspective, this low angle showing the dirt, and then just a little bit of the mountains in the background to show the perspective, or show the sense of place. But I think it's this merger of the guy and the camels and the darkness on the left there that, to me, really takes away from what could have been an interesting image. So I think this is one you just need to kind of motion to the guy, like, hey, drop your mask for a second so I can get a picture. Show me a smile. You smile at him, maybe he smile back at you. And I think that would have tied it all together a lot better. So unfortunately, we'll take this one out.
21 is out. 22.
I like the choice of black and white on this one. I think a lot of times that works really strongly for architecture images, especially at night. The thing that destroys it for me is this umbrella at the bottom. It's a big black mass that's different from all the pretty straight angles of the buildings. And if I could appreciate the umbrella. If I could see the nice curvature, the nice lines to it, then I could say, oh, we're having an architectural element with the umbrella mimicking the architectural elements of the buildings in the background. Then I could see the reason for including it. But with the way it is, it's just, I'm not seeing the little curves and little scallops of the umbrella. So it's just this kind of black floating cloud down at the bottom. So I'm kind of puzzled as to why it was left in there and then a little bit top of someone's head. So I think you could crop all that out and you have an interesting night scene. I'm kind of holding my hand up here of the rest of it. But I think the inclusion of that was not really the right choice, only because the umbrella is not distinctive architecturally, graphically enough to play off the buildings. So to me, it just distracts as this black cloud. So we'll take this one out.
22 is out. Number 23.
I like the idea here with the duck pond sign, very prominent, and then we have the Ferris wheel in the back. I don't know if that's the name of the ride or if there's a second ride that's in front of it that's actually the duck pond ride, because I got kind of confused as to why I have duck pond and it's a Ferris wheel. So I think you maybe need to include whatever was in the foreground so you can see a little bit more of the amusement rides. So to me, it's an okay photo of a carnival, but not that those two things not connected to me kind of creates some confusion. So we'll take this one out.
23 is out. 24.
Interesting artwork here with these scissors creating this flower. So you may have heard this before. Past times I've been here as a judge. I'm really kind of a stickler. It's one of my pet peeves, I guess, unfortunately, that taking a picture of someone else's artwork, unless you're doing it to document their artwork for some art catalog, if that's the case, then yeah, this is a fine photo of someone's artwork, someone's sculpture here for an art catalog. But when you're taking a picture of someone else's creation, like a statue, or in this case, a sculpture or artwork, you really got to make it your own. You got to add some element that wasn't the original vision of the sculptor. Maybe it's this artwork covered in snow, or it's some interesting lighting on the artwork, or there's a person in it admiring the artwork or with their hand outstretched, and then you're comparing the fingers of the hand to the fingers of these handles. Some other element where you're saying, I'm putting my own creative stamp on this. I'm creating something out of someone else's creation, because otherwise it just seems to me like this is a catalog image for an art gallery. So I don't see a creative stamp on there other than the original artist who created this interesting sculpture. So for that, from a photography standpoint, I think it misses the mark. Unless it was your artwork, but then I don't know that because this is anonymous judging. So we'll take this one out.
24 is out. 25.
Interesting looking castle. This is a case where some strong lighting actually is beneficial because it creates some shadows and really allows the bits of the castle to kind of jump apart from each other and stand apart. If it had kind of all flat lighting, it would all just kind of merge together. I see what you're trying to do, showing a little wider space to show some of the lake that it's on and the mountains to show some kind of sense of place. But for me, I think you needed to just go even wider to show a little bit more, just to show this castle more in its environment. It seems a little bit squished in for me. So we include this big green mass of greenery there on the left. I don't necessarily think that adds to the image. Would have rather seen a little bit more of the mountains there on the right. So I think the balance of this one's a little off. So we'll take this one out.
25 is out. 26.
This one's really nice. Really good job finding these three deer feeding all at the same time, all in a very similar position. The one in the middle is merging a little bit with the legs in the background, but I think he's dark enough that it pops out enough. Because interesting soft lighting going on here. I guess it's early in the morning. They're out feeding. So some nice lighting here. And I do like that repetition. But I'm going to take this one out only because I have some other ones I like better. But it is, much like the landscape we saw earlier, it is a very nice image. But I only get 9 slots. So we're going to take this one out.
26 is out. 27.
Interesting on this one. I don't know if this is natural color in wherever crazy place you were, Fantasyland, or you emphasize these pinks, but it definitely jumps out at you. But it to me it seems a little unnatural, a little bit too fantasy because I can't believe we had that color of sky, but maybe it was that color. Um, so this one I think the sky is interesting with that wonderful color. We got the little bit of stars there, and then I like the reflection there in the water. I think for this one, I would have gone for a faster shutter speed. We're starting to get blur of the stars. It's especially prominent there in the reflection of the water. You're seeing the white streaks. So usually these kind of photos, 20 seconds max is what you can allow, and it changes, depends on your lens and stuff like that. So I would have gone a little faster shutter speed, and then if you needed more light, just bring that out in post processing versus just a longer shutter speed. So this one, I guess had some good elements, but I don't know, just didn't wow me as much as some other images. So why don't you take this one out?
27 is out. 28.
This one, much like the one I called Copenhagen before with the water and reflection, it's just very busy, and it's just I don't see the layers. And I think this is another one where you got to go in and post processing and just start dodging and burning all over the place to really make parts of the image in the foreground pop out from the greenery, some of the stonework pop out from the greenery, and then do a little bit in the background so the buildings pop out a little bit from the clouds, and then the foreground. So this one is just another one where your eyes see something phenomenal and some very beautiful sculptured gardens in front of these interesting colonial style houses. But the camera just flattens it all too much, and you got to just go in and do a lot of editing. So we'll take this one out, but I think it has potential, just more editing.
28 is out. 29.
All right, this one I spent just a few minutes on because this is another one I spent a long time kind of looking at. There's some things about this that I really like and some things I think are a little off. Great expression by the model. I like the lighting that you've cast on the model. It looks like it's a combination of studio lighting plus some emphasis in post-processing. So really good, highlighting the cheekbones and the nose and the eyes. All looks good. Her lips, I wish they were like fully closed or a little bit more open to show maybe a little bit of teeth. She's kind of like in between. I don't know if she's taking a little breath or something like that when you were photographing her. So I just wish there wasn't just this little slimmer of gap there. Does kind of define the lips a little bit. So I think the main thing for me was her hand posture. The hand on the right, her left hand, since we don't see her fingers enough, it kind of looks like this club hand. And it looks like maybe she's trying to pull her shawl or what up over her little dress there. And so I think you needed to shift your focus, your position a little bit to the left so we can see a little bit more of her fingers, much like the back, because with that club hand, it's very strong. Like I said, I'm calling it a club hand, right? Here's a beautiful woman, and I'm calling her hand a club. And so I'm not feeling that softness. I think she just needed to either release the tension in her fingers a little, like pull up that shawl and then just ease up for just a moment to allow her fingers to relax. Or if she was wearing like a leather jacket or a biker jacket or something that was more tough, then I would expect to see this kind of club hand. So to me, that was off. You heard me use the phrase a lot tonight, marriage. The marriage of that club hand, that dark, bright hand doesn't go with this, kind of beautiful woman we're seeing up here at the top. Another thing is working with jewelry on models is really a challenge. Usually when I work with models, I just avoid necklaces altogether because they get out of place. And we can see with this one, she's probably been posing and doing different poses, and you're taking kind of different shots. And her necklace is kind of just pushed off to the side, and so it comes a little in shadow, and I can't quite appreciate what the medallion is. And if that necklace had been pushed and a little bit to the right and kind of aligned with her nose and her lips, I think that would have filled out that space way nicer. The other thing is there's this one little straight line poking up from her breast, kind of pointing towards that necklace. And I had to zoom in on my computer, try to figure out what it is. It looks like, at first I thought it was like a thread from the dress, but I think it's like a tattoo or something. She maybe had a tattoo between her breasts or something. I've cloned that out. I don't mind tattoos on models, but if the tattoo's going to be there, show the tattoo. Show that, okay, she's got this tattoo, or show part of it. Just showing this one little string of it, it's just very off-putting because it, like I said, it looked like it was dust on the negative or it was a stray strand. Um, so I think if you could de-emphasize her wrist and keep the light just on her face, maybe more of a vignette here, or if you have another photo where her hand looks a little softer, I think that's going to be better. Great job on the editing on the face, but you got to look at all the elements. It's really all got to come together. And so this one, it has some off pieces, but overall it has a lot of really great technical stuff. So we'll leave this one in for now, but anyway, leave it in for now. Next.
29 is in. Number 30.
I like this one. I'm picking up the pace a little bit. I know it's probably getting a little later for you folks. Neat idea. I don't think there's enough here to really grab my attention. I love old decrepit things and little tree stumps. So it's a neat idea, but for me, I don't think it's enough. I don't think the little tree is of enough interest to kind of really jump out at me. I think it needed more branches or more root part showing. Just it needed a little bit more to it to make it the main subject of this photo. So we'll take this one out.
30 is out. 31.
I like this bug. This is the red mocha. Yeah. I like this one, and it's not as razor sharp as the long-legged bug we saw at the beginning. But the composition on this one is really, really good. That red head really draws me in right off the bat. And I got these antennae that kind of come up, and it's framed out really nicely. And then the one antenna even ends on the bright spot of this vein of this leaf. And then the curve of that just brings me right back into the image. So because it's fatter there, and then my eye wants to go to the thinner part, so it pulls me right back to the middle of the image, and that's just really nice. So I think this one, although maybe not as technically perfect as the other one we saw as far as the sharpness, it's plenty sharp enough, and the composition and the bug itself with the big red head really draws my attention. So overall, it's got the whole package, even though it's missing in a few little areas. So we'll leave this one in.
31 is in. 32.
Great job freezing the action here. Good job by this player going back breaking to try to catch this ball, but it looks like he's going to miss it. So great job kind of freezing the action. For me, that building needs to be squared off. It looks like the roof is kind of angled to the left. So I think maybe that's the way it is from the perspective you're at, but it just seems weird. I think you just need to straighten everything a little bit to the right. And so good job, kind of controlling your depth of field so the players pop out as much as you can from the background, but there's just so many people back there. It all blends together. So I really like the intersection of the guy in white and the guy in black, and kind of white versus black, kind of a classic good guy, bad guy. And really good position here. But I'm just going to say I like some images better tonight, but this one does have a lot of good elements to it, but we're going to take it out.
32 is out. 33.
This bug is nice and sharp. For me, the background, I think I need something more. Looks like it's maybe sitting on some sort of fabric. Maybe you saw it outside on your chair or something like that. So you got really good detail on the bug, good lighting on the bug. But I wish the background was on something more natural and not like a man-made thing like it is. So some good parts to it, but again, the marriage, I gotta have everything kind of come together. And so unfortunately, this is where you saw the bug and that's where you caught him. So great job, practicing your bug photographing skills, but wait for the bug to be on a green leaf or something natural looking. So for me, that was a killer. So we'll take this one out.
33 is out. 34.
Like the position and the title helps clue you in here, the headstand or handstand. Nice on this dragonfly. You usually don't see him in this orientation, so that was kind of something different. The lighting is a little bit strong on him. I could forgive it okay because he is pretty sharp and we have good blurring of the background. I wish that left part of the image wasn't so bright though, because even though I don't mind kind of the stronger light on his face and the little flower there at the bottom, that is kind of distracting, having that big bright screen streak there on the left. So kind of nits. If I had an extra honorable mention, this one might stay in, but we're going to take this one out.
34 is out. 35.
This one, good overall. I like the pano crop here. I think that was a smart choice. Really plays with the string of penguins, coming in here. The total value is really good on this, so you must have had like a little bit of an overcast day. So that works well, so you don't blow out the whites on their chests. For me, I don't think you needed the fourth penguin. I keep wanting to say pelican. Penguin on the right. I feel like he's photobombing you. I think you have this nice group of three. We talked about odd numbers before. That nice group of three is nice. They're all pointing the same direction, following Crazy Dude that's up front, and then the one up front looking at us. So I think this one on the right kind of breaks the symmetry of everything, the balance of everything. So I would just crop him out. And I know if you crop him out, you probably see still his breast poking in there. He's like that guy at the finish line, just put his chest forward because he really wants to be in the picture. I think if he showed his breast still in there, it'd probably still be all right because I wouldn't want to crop out the head of that third penguin on the right. But his face looking at me, I think, breaks up this wonderful play of the ones on the right looking to the left, and then the one on the left looking straight at me. So I think he's got to go. I think you got to crop him out. But overall, it's a nice image, but we're going to take this one out. Sorry, we have so many good images in this category. We have to eliminate some photos that are really good, but just not top 9.
35 is out. 36.
I feel so guilty when I cut out good photos. Sorry. This was a nice shot, nice like kind of studio shot. And I like your idea of putting the color behind it, whether it has like colored paper or whatever. To me, this one seems very academic, like, hey, I'm teaching a class on macro photography, and here's this, whatever they're called, the dandelions, and let's put some color behind it to add some interest. So it's nice, but to me, I guess it didn't wow me enough. I think maybe the individual little seed pods there just need to be brighter and just so they pop out of the page a little bit more because they're very flat and you're really relying just on the colored background to make everything pop out at you. So I think this one could be edited a little bit further. So we'll take this one out.
36 is out. 37.
I'm going to kind of speed it up here because I've said a lot of the same things. So waterfalls, long shutter speed, you got to have lower light. So we're really just blowing out the highlights on this waterfall. I like the composition overall, except for the bottom part of the image. I don't think you need the clutter of these sticks and stuff in there. I would crop right above all those sticks, like right below where the rocks kind of end, and then we start to get into clutter stuff. That would also get rid of this bright spot on the fern tree on the right. So I think you crop all that off, and then you just got to go at a different time of day when it's overcast, and you can do that longer exposure without blowing out the highlights in the water. So we'll take this one out.
37 is out. 38.
This one, like a lot of the other ones we talked about, stuff just starts to get muddled together. These elephant statues just really don't jump out enough for me. They're the same tonal value in this black and white image, so they really just blend into the background. I like your composition. So I think if you just went in and edited the elephants and put some more highlights on them, put a mask on them, and brighten them up a little bit, it's okay if you're adding light that wasn't there. You need that for those guys to pop out of the image more, because as it is, they just merge into the background, and so it just becomes a little bit too muddled. So we'll take this one out.
38 is out. 39.
This one was interesting. I looked at this like, oh, it's like an abstract. It's kind of playing on some geometry. We got colors and bands of white, and then the lines, and I like that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. And this is one where I was always kind of puzzled by this bright spot in the upper right. I was like, why did they include that? Like, that looks so different. And then I read the title, and that's how I judge. I look at the photo first, and then I use the title to add to my experience. I try not to look at the title first. So then I look at the title, I left you my keys, like, oh, the photo's all about the keys. Well, if that was, your intention, it seemed to me, it seems like an afterthought because they're so small in the frame. And at first, I didn't even quite know what they were because I can't see the definition. I think they need to be at more of an angle so I could see the key shape more. So I think you've left a lot of real estate to a really, what could be a really interesting abstract on color and geometry and lines to include these keys, which I don't think you can really fully appreciate. So I think you got to pick what is your focus here. If it's the keys, I think you need to come in a little tighter so I can see what's going on over there. It just doesn't marry well together. If it was me, I just skip the keys, crop those all totally out, and then just have this wonderful, interesting abstract on the left 80% of the image. So we'll take this one out.
39 is out. 40.
So this one, it's kind of humorous, right? These two ladies taking their Instagram, selfies and posts and stuff like that. Kids these days so obsessed with photos of themselves. And then we got Photobomber here in the middle, coming in like he's going to jump out of the water, like right in between these two ladies. Like he's going to hop over this jetty. I know that's probably not what's happening, but obviously that's what it kind of looks like. So kind of humorous, this divide of the parasailer guy here in the middle, or wave rider guy in the middle. But after that, that's where it kind of ended for me. Like the lighting is not really pleasing on either of the ladies. The one on the right's kind of got some high contrast on her, and the one on the left's pretty shadowed. So it just, to me, it's humorous at first, but then it kind of ends there. So we'll take this one out.
40 is out. 41.
This was another one that kind of puzzled me. Like, I wasn't exactly sure what the photographer's going with, but including this kind of, we're looking out the window, but I'm only seeing 3 edges of the window. I'm not seeing the top edge, so it's non-uniform, and so don't know why you chose that. So to me, it just looks like some weird border that I don't quite understand. And then the lighthouse itself, it's really bright light on that white. We're starting to lose detail in the white there. So although your composition is nice, like those clouds coming in, it's almost like you took an image that wasn't going to be good because you didn't have the good light that you needed for this type of image. And you tried to make it artsy by including this framing, but then you didn't include all the framing. So then I'm kind of left puzzled as to what's going on here. So some neat concepts here, but I don't think it all comes together. So we'll take this one out.
41 is out. 42.
Really good job on this dog. I love the blur of the background. And yeah, too cute. Great title for this. He is a nice, happy dog. I would pump up the contrast a little bit more, just really make him pop out even further. Because you got a wonderful expression, nice catch light in the eyes. And I like the framing, but a little bit more editing. If I had one more honorable mention, this was actually not an honorable mention, the last one on my list. Sorry, can't show you that. But I had to cross it out because I only get 5. So just missed the mark. So a little bit more pumping out of this one, make it pop more and rise a little further in the ranks. We'll take this one out.
42 is out. 43.
This one really interesting here, and I don't know if the reflection in the doors was added or that's another part of the scene that we just can't see. But love the title too, the alien doors. So this one's got a lot going on for it. It's got this kind of barren, isolated, abandoned thing, but then it's kind of spooky because it's got light and this weird color on the doors. We see the red that's in the doors replicated by the probably a fire extinguisher here on the right, and then replicated up in the clouds. So I like that kind of like the guy with the bananas and looking at the woman in yellow. So I like how that color's popped around. And then the white balance is off because of the different lights. So I kind of like the green of the white balance. So I think it was smart to leave that in. That adds to the eeriness of it. And then this is one where having a lot of that negative space in the bottom really adds to the image, adds to this mysterious, like isolated, what is this mysterious door in the middle of nowhere and the dark, stormy clouds. I was looking at these. My son was looking over my shoulder. He's like, "Oh, Dad, looks like something right now, Stranger Things." So good job of contemporary, capturing something like we might see in that TV show. So a lot of really good things going on for this image. And this is really nice. So we'll leave this one in.
43 is in. Number 44.
Neat job. Like if you were doing a book on ballpark and what goes on at the ballpark, kind of neat capturing these guys pulling the cover off the field. But it kind of ends there for me. It's like didn't really draw enough. It's more of a documentary photo, like a photojournalist type image. And if your category was photojournalism, maybe it would rise a little higher. But I think in this kind of open category, I have some much more interesting images than this. And I think it's a little flat. I would, when you do black and whites, it's good to have some really dark blacks. And I don't think we quite see that there in the background. So I think increase your contrast a bit would just make those stands pop out and really stand on their own kind of against the bright white of the tarp here. So a little more editing on this one and maybe save it for another category, another competition. So take this one out.
44 is out. 45.
I like this one, and I debated how much I like the dark shadow at the top. It does kind of makes for an interesting element, kind of plays off this interesting color blue-tailed skink against the wall. I think you maybe included too much of that shadow. I don't think maybe just a little strip of it would be nice. And if you cut the thickness of that shadow down, like maybe took 2/3 of it away, so it's just a thin, dark strip, it would mimic the dark stripes in the gecko there, or the skink, against the thin white stripes, the golden with the brown wall. So I think the balance, it offsets the balance by having that big, thick band of black. I'm getting tongue-tied because I'm getting hungry for dinner and thirsty, I guess. So I think you need to skinny that down, and then that would be a stronger composition. So just recrop this a little differently and think about your elements and how they can marry with each other. A thin black line would mimic the black line on the skink or the stink. So recrop it and be stronger. So we're going to take this one out.
45 is out. 46.
Decent shot of the Eiffel Tower at night. Kind of like the night scene we saw before, the black and white New York scape where we had the umbrella in the bottom. Here we got this, I guess it's a fountain or something like that. But again, we have this kind of blurry mass that I can't appreciate what it is. And I don't think it adds to the photo. I think you can crop all that out and crop out some of these lights on the bottom and just have the pretty, Eiffel Tower lit up at night against the background. I would ask you to check your white balance on this one because I've taken just a few months ago, I was at the Eiffel Tower at night, and it doesn't have this greenish cast. It's more of a golden yellowish cast to the lights there. So check your white balance and change that to a more pleasing color instead of this kind of lime green that you got here. So a few edits on this one would make it stronger. Maybe try to bring out a little bit of the light in the sky, maybe see a few more stars. So a bit more editing needed on this one. And it's leaning a little bit to the right. But we'll take this one out.
46 is out. 47.
Like this one, high points for creativity. I love taking pictures of old rusty cars. And I've never really thought to do kind of this like abstract, like weird angle of the door handle. So really good job of kind of thinking outside the box, thinking of something different, trying to create an object we know, a door handle, into more of an abstract image. I think for this one, I would pump up the colors a lot more. Sometimes rusty stuff, you'd like to have the kind of flat, muted palette kind of goes with the rusty, decrepit look. But I think for this one, when you're trying to make more of an artistic statement, more of an abstract, that's when I usually will pump up the colors more just to play off that. So I think like this blue, if it was a little bit more punchy, it would stand out a bit more. But overall, it's very creative, something different. And I like your composition on this one. Good balance of all the images, all the elements. So we'll leave this one in.
47 is in. 48.
This one, the sky is phenomenal. A lot of times you get the dark clouds and they don't work. I think in this case, the dark clouds do work against the sky because it is such nice, pretty colors there with the reds, oranges, and light blues. For me, it's about the boats here on the right that's the problem. The boat on the left, We can see a little fishing boat, got the light on the front. We can kind of see two people in it. Everything's kind of distinct, and we can make it out. But on the right, we got looks like 2 or 3 boats rafted up together. So it just creates this big mass that I can't quite make out. Yes, I know they're boats, but it's all mushed together with the people and the boats. And so to me, that really detracts from the interesting sky. So I think you need to just yell at those boaters like, hey, separate your boat 10 to 20 feet for a minute for me. And then that would have made a stronger arrangement of elements. So we're going to take this one out.
48 is out. 49.
I like this image. Great job selecting the pano crop. That worked really, really well for this image. You did clip off the one snake's tail there on the right, but it's forgivable because the rest of the image looks really nice. This one, I think the light is a little strong, but it looks like it's not too bright that you couldn't dull it down in post-processing. So I'd take your highlight slider a good bit down, take your contrast up a bit more. You might, once you do that, the background might start to get too distracting. So this may be a case where you might have to mask off the snakes from the background so you can bring out the contrast just in the snakes and then leave the background a little bit more muted. A little bit of work to do it because Photoshop or Lightroom is probably not going to be a good job of masking. You probably have to manually do it. But I think it'll be worth the effort to make the snakes pop out of the background a little bit more. Overall, I did like this one. But unfortunately, it didn't make the cut, so we're going to take this one out.
49 is out. 50.
I like this one. This one's very interesting, with the high contrast, with the stack there in the back, and then this lone person walking. I would have waited one more minute for them to be a little bit more to the right, a little bit more into the lighter part of the sand there. But it is very interesting. You kind of this big lonely mountain in the back, and then this person with their head down, looks like they got their hoodie up. It really kind of tells a little story, kind of keeps me guessing as what's going on here. And there's probably just some kid walking down the beach checking out the water, but I read more into it than what it probably really was. So that's interesting to me. So I like that juxtaposition of the man, the single man versus this big kind of single stack. So the composition really good here. Processing of the black and white's really, really well done. So we'll leave this one in.
50 is in. 51.
And the last one, I think this is interesting little shack here, kind of leaning to the right. This is another one where we gotta pair all the elements together. I like the shack, even though there's some strong light on it. It's good enough that it's not too overblown with the light there. And there's a little box here in the foreground. Looks like you maybe tried to sharpen it up or maybe apply some kind of filter. It just looks a little unnatural to me. I think whatever you did there, I'd tone it down a little bit. But then on the left, we have this one little sea spray coming up, and it just, to me, it doesn't go with the building. I think it needed to be more impressive of a sea spray to really balance out that side of the image. You've left, 40% of your image is the water there. So I think you need more sea spray or just no sea spray, and then it's just this barren, abandoned building against this barren, abandoned, not abandoned, but barren ocean. So I think you tried to include an extra element, but I think it wasn't quite the right element. So we're going to take this one out.
Okay, 51 is out. Make sure I have that. Okay, 51 is out. Let's go ahead and get all of our images back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are we left with 9?
Yep.
All right. Wow. Good job.
All right. So honorable mention number 1 is going to be the rusty door handle, number 8 there on your right room.
That is number 3, Ron.
Nope, not this one.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
The door handle. There you go.
Come on, double click. There we go. Number 47, Ron. You're right.
All right, next honorable mention is the red milkweed beetle in the upper right.
That is 31.
Next honorable mention is the OBX surfer dude there in the center.
That one is 18.
Next, your last honorable mention, next honorable mention is Miss Jamila, the model there in the center.
That is number 29.
And then your last honorable mention is Haystack Beats, the black and white with the guy in the mountain.
Number 50.
All right, fourth place goes to the Snowy Egret.
That is number 11.
All right, now the next two, I'm very consternated as to who gets second, who gets third, and I've gone back and forth many times. I think these top three are all really nice for very, very different reasons. But it's very tricky. Third place, I'm going to go to the Fresh Market. Although that one was really nice, could have easily been first place too. But
That is number 4, Ron. Excuse me, 3. Number 4 for third place.
third place. And then second place will be the Alien Doors, the spooky Stranger Things thing.
That is 43.
And then by default, the long-legged bug is your first place.
Very nice.
Okay, let's see who's who.
47, Ron?
47 haystack, door handle. Yeah, it's not a haystack, it's a door handle. And that's my image.
Nice job, Ron.
Thank you.
Where was that taken, Ron?
I have an affinity for looking at junk cars, and I looked at so many lately, I can't tell you which site it was.
Fine, keep your secrets.
Yeah.
31.
Okay, number 31 is red milkweed beetle, and that's Don Granis. Nice. Okay.
18.
I'm sorry, 18. OBX Surfer, and that one is Mike Thomas. Mike's still here?
No, he had to run.
Okay.
29.
Okay, 29 is honorable mention, Miss Jamila, and that's Fred Venetia. Fred, you want to talk about it?
That was taken at the graffiti warehouse.
Graffiti Warehouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. By amateur models there. Okay.
Yep. All right, number 50 is Haystack Rock, and Greg Hockel. Congratulations.
That was taken out in Oregon in Cannon Beach. That was taken out in Oregon at Cannon Beach.
Congratulations, Greg. Maybe he's listening from the Anne Arundel County Fair.
No, he's not. He just texted me.
Uh-oh.
He's home.
Number 11.
Okay, 11, fourth place, Snowy, and that's J.C. Bird. J.C.?
That was taken in New Jersey. I was on a trip with my wife. She was bowling, and I snuck out to the wildlife refuge. And that was Edwin Forsyth Wildlife Refuge in New Jersey.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Okay. Third place is number 4, Fresh Market, and that image was from Chuck Gallegos.
Nice.
Chuck is not here this evening.
43.
Second place, number 43, Alien Doors, and that was Cheryl Kurz. Yeah, very nice. And Greg, we're not getting the explanation on some of these because we have a number of folks watching from home this evening.
Okay.
And first place is Mike Thomas, who did also have to leave, Long-Legged Fly.
Got mine. Yeah, you guys really got a good idea.
Cheryl told me about hers, and Mike told us about his. Cheryl says that her image was taken at the Annapolis Junction while taking photos of the storm and stars. The elevators were lit by her husband's truck and the alien-looking screen.
Oh, clever. Yes, backup lights. Okay.
And then Mike says the fly was 5 to 6 millimeter size, used 90 millimeter macro, good flash, Cygnus diffuser. Diffuser. I can't talk.
Wow.
Okay, well, gee, Greg, you kept us here till 9:35, glued to our seats, and really appreciate the absolutely outstanding.
Is anyone here from Novice?
Yes.
That one? Diana?
What?
Do you want to talk about?
Sure.
Which image is it?
Dawn with Shorty, the honorable mention one. There, yeah. So that's at Maple Dam Road at Blackwater Wildlife Refuge. I got there at dawn. He started flying around, and he got curious about me and just came right at me, which doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, I was very lucky. So that's where that one came from.
Very nice.
Nice.
Who else do we have in
She had another one. The hummingbird. Oh, Ken can tell us about his.
I took that photo in May when I was at a workshop in Tucson, and that's a professional model, and her skin looks like that.
Wow. So that's a hummingbird I saw in Costa Rica. There were feeders everywhere. It was a hummingbird garden, and there were hummingbirds of all varieties there. It was just beautiful. But I kept looking at that bird of paradise flower, wishing somebody would go visit it, and suddenly this fellow came over, and there wasn't anything in the background. I was just flabbergasted. So thank you. Yeah, no, that was a lucky moment. So.
Very nice.
Was there anyone else here? Oh, hang on. Here.
The Dark Hedges, that was taken in Ireland, and that particular scene was used in Game of Thrones, if you're a Game of Thrones fan. So.
Christine, is that it for everybody?
I believe that's everyone.
Greg, we want to really thank you for helping us out tonight. Fantastic choice of winners from such a great large amount of photos.
Yeah, diverse, for sure.
We want to remind everybody, don't forget to visit the Anne Arundel County Fair. I have 6 tickets here for entry to the fair. Please come and get them. Also, next week is our printer night. How many printers do we have coming, Christine?
Right now, ours.
We only have 2 printers coming, so please, we need other people to bring printers, please. Do you need both of those, JC? There's 2.
2 of them right there.
All right, thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Just
Good
making sure
night,
you know your
everyone.
tour.